ways that beginners can discover their family heritage and do genealogy like on a professional level. And this seems overwhelming at first, but I assure you, those who commit themselves to this journey will not only find results, but will find sincere reward in rekindling those extinguished family flames. I believe that our ancestors would love to be remembered. I believe that what they left behind in the old country meant something to them, a sacrifice to give you, your children, your descendants, the possibility of a better life. And there's no better way to honor that memory than delving into genealogy. So, you're a newcomer to this topic. Where exactly do you start? I would recommend calling a family meeting, and this might not go as planned. In my family and in many families, there is something of a taboo connected to your legacy, a feeling of shame quite often. European immigrants, despite popular media narratives, were often finding themselves in the lowest rungs of society, literally ditch diggers, gutter cleaners, things like that. So there wasn't an essence of pride from where these immigrants came in an outward notion as we would celebrate it today, but there was a feeling of shame for being less than in society. The celebration of one's origin nationality would happen kind of behind closed doors if it were to happen at all. So the family meeting might be far more challenging than you would realize, because if there is anyone alive who would remember those generations who came over, they may very well be sworn to secrecy, and promises from those times seem to mean something. All the same, if you are consistent with asking for any details that you can find about your family's story, be it fact or be it legend, these details may really come to support the factual, concrete evidence that you find from your ancestors later on in the journey. So I would start by speaking with those closest to you, your mother, your siblings even, your aunts. Very interesting, but aunts, as compared to your direct parents, might have a very, very different take on the family history altogether. Also, not to be sneaky about it, but you might consider speaking with everyone directly and individually without letting the other family members know in advance, so that you can get an unbiased, simple account of what is known. Because once they know that you're looking for family stories, there might have been a bastard child somewhere in the past. There may have been criminals in your family. There may have been alcoholics. So many facts that they're looking to bury and hide. And if they're knowledgeable of your search together, the chances of you uncovering those secrets are going to be far less than. So speak with everyone individually, then call a family meeting and create a family tree. And this is much harder than it may seem for a few reasons. For one thing, females traditionally take on the surname of their husbands, and therefore you might find yourself in a situation where 1 or 2 generations up, no one living recalls the maiden name of your great grandparents or great uncles and great aunts. Sorry, I should say great aunts and great grandmothers, because the grandfathers probably kept their names. All the same, this is an important detail to take into account right out of the gate, because it's all good and well to know your grandmother, your great grandmother, your great great grandmother by their marriage name. When you want to explore the lines of their family later on, the marriage name will do no good for you. You won't be able to find that in baptismal documents later on, media documents, school records. So it's very important that you find out everyone's birth name, their given name, of course, and document name changes. And this gets very, very confusing. People change their names for reasons beyond marriage as well. Some people leaving Europe were leaving a criminal past. Some were evading taxes. Some were leaving in secrecy because they had an unhappy marriage. And so there are many, many, many reasons why people falsified their names, change them. Not only just, happy Disney marriages where the wife takes husband's name and then you visit the cemetery plot and it says mother and father is very nice. Real life doesn't look that way. It's far more edgy, and you'll be very, very surprised. So get a feeling for the maiden names as well as the taken names while you devise your family tree. Also, and this is very important, you cannot get too committed to it because facts will change. Details will arise that disqualify what you think you know. It's a little bit similar to scientific research in that fact. So, once you have a family tree established, I would recommend joining a commercial genealogy service. Now, these can be a little bit pricey, but they'll be far cheaper than just shooting arrows into infinity. So, genealogy.com and MyHeritage, those are two very, very popular options. I gravitate towards genealogy. Ancestry.com. It's far more user-friendly. Its database is huge, but you'll notice that the prices kind of get worse and worse the closer you get to what you're hoping to find. So an easy way to kick it off is to use the free service to the maximum, to answer the questions that you are looking to know. Really remedial, low-level, simple facts. Then you should invest in taking a DNA test, and if you can afford it, have those around you take a DNA test, because the matches which come up, although in many cases they could surprise you, they will also put you into contact with other people who are, 3 bloodlines away, so relatively close family members who could know a lot about your ancestry in another part of the world. They may have already done all the dirty work, and once you take that DNA test, you find them, and they're more than likely willing to share. I've personally had about 5 people reach out to me, and I gave them everything that I knew. And in some cases, you'll have people reach out to you who are blood relatives, but they never knew who their grandfather was. Things like that can occur. It gets very interesting, very spicy. But this is a really, really interesting and simple lottery that can help to diffuse some of the costs and maybe even just lay out your whole family history as you've always wanted to see it. It may or it may not, but you have to try. And I would also test those around you because the results can vary in a kind of surprising way. So once you've signed up for the service, exhaust it, basically. Once you've exhausted one level, pay for the next. You'll find that at a certain point, everything within the United States has been discovered, and they have some records from the old country. Those are totally worth seeing, but it gets confusing. Some of the records could be in Latin. This is another resource that can help you out. Those services also have like a built-in mechanism to access ship records from Ellis Island, which can also be confusing. However, it's worth noting that it's free to search for your ancestor ship records in Ellis Island, but you have to kind of know what you're looking for. Otherwise, you will find many, many records of people with the same names, and you have to always take into account that the people creating these records were not native to the same lands as your ancestors in most cases, and therefore the names will be botched. The source of origin will be botched. The other thing that's very surprising is that the records are very often, well, not very often, always in longhand cursive, so they can be very jarring to read at first. I actually started writing everything in cursive with my own notes just so that I could get used to the notion of reading them. Once you've exhausted all the knowledge available to you in these commercial services, which can take you very far, it's time to go to the next level. And I'm talking about buying an airline ticket and flying to the other side of the world. Get on the ground. When you know when your family's from, you go to that town, you talk to people, and I can almost guarantee you will find people with a similar or a local equivalent to your surname who will know a lot about your family history. But you have to be very tactful, because in some countries, people come back looking to reacquire lost real estate. So you might, the American in you might be coming home and, oh, my family, my long lost cousin, right? And they'll be completely skeptical because they're thinking you're there to take the land away. They don't necessarily have the same romanticized notion of family. The origin of family in Europe was very, very business-like. Mates were chosen by parents as a means to devise assets and keep them within the family to ensure that the prosperity of the family went on. That's what it was really, really all about. And so there's still, to a sense, this business-like formality that you'll find when you're coming back to your home village to check things out. But if they don't feel threatened in that sense, or if there's nothing to give, my experience is that they're very, very giving, loving, open, and sometimes a little bit strange. They think it's funny, but they're also kind of curious to see where their people went, and you can reconnect in amazing ways. When I found my own great grandmother's first cousins, I was shocked to see that they had family photos from my immediate relatives that include my father, my grandmother. They knew my family's stories. We had never talked, but we were absolutely families. And regardless of cultural or linguistic disconnect, it was miraculous to be able to experience that. So you have to come over. You have to speak to people. Be open. If you're shy, get over your shyness. Now, if you can't come, most European countries actually have a business infrastructure for American ancestry, and they will send someone in your name. And sometimes that can be a really, really good method as well, because when you show up to these towns, you really you need to know how to navigate the various social structures that are in place, including how to speak with priests, how to access the church records without paying an arm and a leg. It can be very, very tricky, and it can be very discouraging also. So having a local on the ground, be it with you or be it just in your name and you're, kind of sending orders from the computer back home, is a very, very, very fruitful and good option. So after that, you've been home. There are some other places you can summon medical records of your ancestors within the system. I was amazed to find, thanks to my mother's research, that there were some very, very strange medical cases in my family, arrest records as well. You can find archived press that include your ancestors' correspondences. For example, classifieds were used in a very, very different way. World War II soldiers that were on the front would write home to the classifieds and kind of put out disclaimers to the entire town. And Ancestry.com provides records of that, and it's quite amazing. So I would say these are the first 5 steps that you need to take to conquer your family's genealogy, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by doing so. I am certainly not. So thanks, guys, for watching Cults America podcast. Much love and good luck in your endeavors.